So let's talk about a few questions of CSR net syllabus of previous year questions on ecology. So first question we'll see. First question: the following are the niche characteristics of the constituent species and resource partitioning pattern in different ecosystem. Which these would lead to competitive exclusion of the species? Now here you can see that there is a environmental gradient in in x-axis, environmental gradient or resources versus net primary production. We know that it's suppose in x-axis and y-axis, if the x-axis environmental gradient or resources, x and y-axis is the net primary production or utilization, we can put net in primary production. So maximum overlap, if the niche have maximum overlap between two different species, suppose these are species 1, some species 2, and now another species is species 3. So if they have maximum overlap between them, A, B, and C, if the maximum overlap between them, the maximum chance of competitive exclusion. Here you can see that here the overlap is less between two different three or four species. Here also see that max overlap is less, and here also more less overlap is there. So here maximum overlap is in the option 2, that is that's why the it will be the answer. So which of the following this lead to competitive exclusion? Competitive exclusion leads to if there is the maximum overlap between the species, so maximum chance of competitive exclusion, because they are using maximum resources are same, and that's why they leads to competitive exclusion. So next question we'll see. So you observe that two species of barnacles, species 1 and species 2, occupy upper and lower strata of intertidal rock respectively. Only when two species, or when species 2 was removed, and there is two species, species 1 and species 2. Now when species 2 was removed by you from the lower strata, species 1 could occupy both upper and lower strata. Now you can draw that question in that way. So first is that there is a its experiment. You can see that the experiment is known as Joseph Cornell experiment. Joseph Cornell experiment. This experiment is based on two barnacle species. One is Balanus, another is the Thalamus. Balanus and Thalamus. Right? Now, Balanus, these are actually Balanus, they have different in nature. What happened in nature? In nature, Balanus failed to survive. Balanus failed to survive in high tide. Fails to survive high on the rock because it is unable to resist the desiccation or drying out during the low tide, and its realized niche is therefore the similar to its fundamental niche. So we know that its realized niche is similar to its fundamental niche. Now we know that in case of realized niche, basically if we consider the fundamental niche versus and realized niche, suppose in x-axis temperature versus if we see the moisture, so the fundamental niche larger than the realized niche when this is the yellow color part, the red color part is fundamental niche. So these are part is fundamental niche, and these are realized niche. So fundamental niche actually is the theoretical space occupied by the organism when there is without the interaction with other species. So, and when there is no negative interaction is there from other species, so that is the fundamental niche. But in realized niche, when there is when there is the species is a theoretical it's a space when the species is present with competition, right? Say actual inhabitable space when the species is present with competition. So it's a always the realized niche is smaller than the fundamental niche in general without any negative interaction when operating, right? Now now we can see that here, so in the rock, so here you can see that at the thalamus is actually the occupying the upper stratum of the rock and balanus occupying the lower stratum. When both two species, balanus and thalamus, both are present, they have a specific niche separation, that is the one presence in the upper stratum and another present in the lower of the rock. But in case of if you remove balanus from here and so see that all the part the thalamus is taken up by the all the part, which is even upper stratum and lower stratum, so lower of the rock. So that's actually the fundamental niche for thalamus. So thalamus is the fundamental niche is whole the rock, and in case of balanus only the lower stratum. It's fundamental and real niche both in the lower stratum. So here you can now you can see that question. So you observe that two species of barnacle, species 1 and species 2 occupy upper and lower strata. So first is that the species 1 and species 2. Species 1 is occupying upper strata, the species 1, and species 2 in occupying the lower strata. These are ocean lower strata, or we can ocean we can see here. These are ocean. So these are species 1 and these are species 2. Species 2 is here, lower strata. Now respectively, and only when species 2 was removed, suppose you experimentally removing species 2 by you from the lower strata, you are removing, now only species 1 is there, species 1 present in upper strata. So from lower strata, species 1 could occupy both, the species 1 can occupy both lower and upper strata. From the choice given below, what would be the inference of these observations? So upper strata of the intertidal rock, you can see that the species 1, now when we know that fundamental niche is that when two species in present with in competition or with other species, and when the other species one is absent or competitor is absent, so then is the fundamental niche. So fundamental niche become fundamental niche because without any negative interaction is there. Now you can see that, so it's a species 1, the upper strata of the species 1 and lower upper strata of the species 1 is the it's realized niche, realized niche. So upper strata of the intertidal rock is the realized niche of species 1, right? So upper strata, so second option, upper strata of the intertidal rock is the fundamental niche of the nodes. Fundamental niche is the without any competition, without any negative interaction in, like predation, parasitism. These are for fundamental niche. So fundamental niche, that's why it's become much more larger than realized niche. Now as the we consider that the species interacting species impact in negatively with other species because the competitive species is there, so species 1 and species 2 exhibit mutualism, no, and species 1 can compete species 1 can compete out species 2, no. So correct answer is the observation is the upper strata of the intertidal rock is the realized niche of species 1. So next question. Individuals occupy a particular habitat and adaptive to it phenotypically but not genotypically are known as, if we know that individual species occupying a particular habitat, so it's a will be eco-phenes. Eco-phenes, that is adapted for phenotypically not by genotypically, that's a eco-phenes. So next question. Now, a general increase in the average body mass of animals population within a species with latitude is known as, in general increase, we know that these are called Bergmann's rules. We know that Bergmann's rules, body size will increase when we move from equator to pole. So body size will increase when we move from, these are equator zone and these are pole, so body size will increase, body size will increase when we move from equator towards the pole. So what's, now see that equator animals versus polar animals, that's a major difference in there. So equator animals, they have their body size is small, equator animals their body size is small, surface area is large, their surface area is large and volume is small. Equator animals, their body size small, surface area large and volume small, but in polar animals, body size larger, surface area small, volume large. So these are, answer is option 2, that is Bergmann's rules. Now next question. In a two species interaction, assume that it leads to competition in habitat A but to facilitate in habitat B. Which of the following is true about niches of these species? You know that the fundamental niche is or when the two species without any competition, without affecting negative interaction with each other, or without the absence of other species, because we consider the species actually negatively impact the other species. So that's why it's reduces its niche when other species is present. That is realized niche, we call it. Now here the major you have to look at the question is that the here is a facility to inhabited B. Here these are the term. Generally, if we see the definition of that realized niche and fundamental niche in terms of facilitation. Now we are introducing the definition of, or if we view in that of in presence of facilitator species. See that here question is says facilitator facilitator species. So if we consider here facilitator species present, so we can define in that way fundamentally say, actually we can change our view of fundamentally say fundamentally say equal to the, or fundamentally so you can define as that is a physical space, that is a physical space, that is a, oh, that is a physical space that is a physical space that is a physical space in which a species can develop self-sustaining self-sustaining population self-sustaining population if not constrained by negative biotic interaction. Negative biotic interaction. Negative biotic interaction. Negative biotic interaction, basically we can see that as a like harmful effect of, that is, you can consider competition, you can consider predation, parasitism, right? Now in case of, in a view of realized niche, realized niche is that represent the space actually occupied by a species occupied by a species after accounting SCCOUN accounting for interaction with other species including including positive interaction including positive interaction, right? Now here you can see that there is a so including positive interaction. Now we'll go to the questions. So question says species to interaction. Now in a species interaction, assume that it leads to competition in a habitat A but is to facilitate in habitat B. Which of the following true about the niche of this species? Fundamental niches are larger than, generally we know that the fundamental niche is larger than realized niche. Fundamental niche is larger than dull niche, and these are realized niche. Now these are considering when is that there is a negative impact by the species too. Now if you see that in case of the realized niche, now here is a facilitator, as the facilitator species present. So suppose say desiccation versus temperature. If we see that temperature and the fundamental niche, now now after the interaction with the as the facilitator species, these are before the facilitator species, these are fundamental niche. Now realized niche in presence of facilitator species. Now here we can see that these are fundamental niche as that previous. Now here as facilitator species present, now facilitator species will increase the realized niche, because here facilitator species help to increase increase their species niche, right? So fundamental niches are larger than realized niche in habitat A but opposite in habitat B, because in case of where the in habitat A there is a in habitat A there is competition, where the competition is there in species 2 interaction, assume it leads to competition in habitat A. In habitat A there is a competition. If competition, this fundamental niche is larger than realized niche. But if it is the in case of this facilitator species present, facilitator species present, facilitator species present. So facilitator species reverse it, because here realized niche is larger, realized niche is larger than fundamental niche. These are total realized niche, niche because here in here the facilitator species is to facilitate in habitat B. In this, if you consider these are habitat A and this in the case of habitat B, because here one species facilitate other, so it will be realized niche is larger than fundamental niche. Now, so answer will be the option A. Fundamental niche are larger than realized niche in habitat A, but opposite in habitat B, because in habitat B there is a facilitator species present. Now, next question. To understand prey-predator relationship, Didinium predator and Paramecium prey were introduced. Paramecium population was grown with sand sediment as hiding place or refuge. So to these population, Didinium was introduced only once. So here we know that prey-predator interaction. If it is prey, here Paramecium is the prey. Paramecium Mesium is there, say prey, and predator is Didinium. Didinium. Now, if the predator present and predator try to decrease the prey number, if predator is high, prey number will be less. Now, here there is a another important. There is a hiding place of sediment. This is the important term here. There is a hiding place. So with sand sediment as hiding place or refuge. Now here, so what will be that as the paramecium population was grown, paramecium population can hide in the sediment, or so it will be the population initially in population. No, it's not that. See that question, the population will steadily decrease and vanish. No, because here there is a hiding place is there. Suppose these are hiding place for paramecium, so paramecium can hide here, so it will not vanish. So option 1 is not correct. Option 2, the population will initially increase and then stabilize. It will not increase um, first at the beginning, because here didinium was introduced only once, the predator introduces one, so the population will initially decrease and then increase and stabilized. Yes, this will be the correct answer, because population first it will not be able to adapt with the didinium, that because predator is there. Predator first initially decrease some, and then paramecium learn to hide into the places of the sand dune, and then they will remain and they will survive. So prey population that is in paramecium will initially decrease and then increase and stabilize. So population steadily increase. No. So answer is option 3 is the correct answer. So individuals with mass have greater mass have a smaller surface area to volume ratio, which helps to conserve heat. This is known as individuals with greater mass have a smaller surface area to volume ratio. We know that these are known as Bergmann's rules, right?